When was a Roman Catholic Church made? In order to understand its birth, first we need to follow the process on how the early church in Rome, which had been persecuted, obtained recognition from the Roman Empire. The church in Rome kept the undefiled truth of the early church in its initial stage, but later accepted various gods of Rome and religious customs when it became acknowledged as a Roman religion. And this gave birth to the Roman Catholic Church that has the characteristics of Roman polytheism. The Apostle Paul preached the gospel of Christ to Palestine, Asia Minor, Greece, and finally in Rome. The church in Rome was not welcomed in its initial stage. It was because of the monotheism of Christianity and the polytheism of Rome conflicted with each other. The Romans believed that everything, humans, places, and goods, was inhabited by divinity. As they accepted folk beliefs of the people they conquered, far more various gods and religions prospered in Rome. Christian monotheism that appeared in this age went counter to the polytheistic concept of Rome, especially as the Roman emperors approved all the religions of the people they conquered in order to rule over them and to achieve their political purposes. This came into conflict with Christianity, so the Roman emperors persecuted the Christians. The early church was oppressed by many emperors, but there was a turning point during the reign of Emperor Constantine in the 3rd century. In 313, Emperor Constantine proclaimed the Edict of Milan. The edict approved Christianity as a legal religion of Rome and gave legal privileges and immunity from military duty and taxes to the Christian clergy. There was the political goal of Constantine underlying such kinds of preferential treatment. It was Mithraism, the sun worship religion, that was diffused throughout Rome. But all the Roman emperors deified themselves and enforced people to worship them. Some of the nobility were fascinated by the Egyptian mystery religion. So, Rome suffered from religious dissension within itself. At this, Constantine tried to make the best use of Christianity that had spread throughout the whole region of Rome, despite all sorts of persecution. This was because he thought that Christianity could solidify his empire. By approving Christianity as a national religion of Rome, Constantine tried to seek the unity of the Roman Empire under one religion. Thanks to Constantine's pro-Christian policies, many believers of the polytheistic religions of Rome streamed into the Christian church. This tightened Constantine's political grip, and Christianity positioned itself as the religion of Rome, expunging persecution and contempt it had received so far. However, the indiscreet conversion they did without having any kind of understanding or faith, rather produced an adverse effect, the influx of pagan customs into the church. Those who were tainted with polytheism of Rome looked as if they had converted, but in actuality it wasn't easy for them to get rid of the religious rites and institutions of worshipping the sun, the moon, and the stars, and various gods and goddesses, which they had worshipped since their forefathers. The church in Rome sought for solutions to disburden the pagans when they converted to Christianity. It was to bring in things similar to the gods that the pagans had believed into the church. They thought they would increase the number of pagan converts by doing that. For the Christian bishops introduced, with but slight alterations, into the Christian worship, those rites and institutions by which formerly the Greeks and Romans and others had manifested their piety and reverence towards their imaginary deities, supposing that the people would more readily embrace Christianity if they perceived the rites handed down to them from their fathers still existing unchanged among the Christians. The church in Rome that had been persecuted and despised wanted to put their roots down in Rome as an approved religion, even if they had to be mixed up with Roman polytheism. It was because they wanted to keep their faith in comfort, being freed from the extreme pain of persecution. To attract more pagans, the church in Rome tried to Christianize various kinds of pagan gods to suit the Bible. One of the most representative things among them was accepting pagan customs of the sun god worship tradition. The church in Rome identified Jesus with the sun god. Inside of the church was decorated with various kinds of sun images, and the idea to worship the sun was established as if it were the truth of the church.
All judges, city people, and craftsmen shall rest on the venerable day of the sun.
Constantine's edict in 321 played an important role in making the sun god worship faith to put its roots down in the church. Constantine continued to identify the sun with the Christian God in some way. When in 321, Constantine made the first day of the week a holiday, he called it the Venerable Day of the Sun, Sunday. The Christian church took over many pagan ideas and images. From sun worship, for example, came the celebration of Christ's birth on the 25th of December, the birthday of the sun. As the sun god worship mingled in with Christianity, the church in Rome was deprived of its purity of the early church and changed its appearance to the Roman Catholic Church.
Before the 3rd century, the church in Rome was one of many churches that were scattered all over the Roman Empire. The reason the church in Rome later became the head of all the churches of the world and dominated the Middle Ages was because it joined hands with Emperor Constantine. As a result of Constantine's pro-Christian policies, many people who believed pagan gods converted to Christianity. This consolidated Constantine's political position, and there was no need for the church in Rome to refuse the converts because it was a good opportunity to secure its religious position. After the church in Rome accepted pagan idolatry and doctrines, it was quickly secularized. During the Middle Ages, it was even hard to tell the difference between the church and the secular world. The Catholic Pope enthroned kings, and kings protected the Catholic Church. Opposing the Catholic Church itself was rebelling against one's own country. The Pope wielded an absolute power. We can see just how powerful he was through one incident, the humiliation at Canossa. That happened during the time of Pope Gregory VII. Pope Gregory VII claimed that the Pope could not be judged by anyone on earth, and he could dethrone emperors and kings, and excommunicated Henry IV, the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, in the course of the investiture controversy. As Henry IV was faced with the crisis of being dethroned, he went to the Pope who was in Canossa. Barefoot, he knelt for 3 days in the snow, outside the castle of the Pope, and begged for his forgiveness. This is what is called the humiliation at Canossa incident. The Pope had so much authority that there was no one who was able to hold back the Church from abusing its power anywhere in Europe. Not only that, the popes committed numerous crimes such as murder, blasphemy, simony, and adultery to hold on to their seat of power. We cannot even fathom the evil deeds of the corrupt popes. Among them, Pope Leo X enjoyed works of art and collected masterpieces. He invited artists like Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and Raphael to the Vatican and richly ornamented the church. Being driven by his vanity, he constructed St. Peter's Basilica. However, as he ran out of money by collecting costly works of art, he started to print a greater amount of indulgences. An indulgence is a certificate giving the forgiveness of sins. The Catholic priest propagated that people were guaranteed to enter the kingdom of heaven safer when they gave more money.
Come, see for yourself. This is not just a simple indulgence. Even though you don't do confession, all your sins will be forgiven. Even the sins of your relatives in purgatory will vanish. Will you just leave your mother to suffer in the fire? Come here, everyone. Come. When you drop the coins in the box and it makes a clinking sound, then the souls will arise from the fiery purgatory.
The sale of indulgence was one of the biggest businesses of the Catholic Church. Since indulgences was a good solution for those who were seized by the fear of hell, numerous people gathered to buy the kingdom of heaven. Giotto, the representative artist during medieval Europe, clearly shows the evils of indulgence in his work. The Last Judgment. In the painting, Jesus, the judge, is in the middle and the apostles are on both sides. Heaven is shown on the right and hell is shown on the left. One thing that is worthy of notice here is the scene where souls are weighed. A man who is on his knees presents a model of the chapel to three women. The name of the man is Enrico Scorveni. He was a notorious loan shark of that time. Because loan sharking was a big sin, he could never dream of entering the kingdom of heaven. However, even though Enrico was a loan shark, he bought indulgences and paid for his sins, and proudly purchased the ticket for the kingdom of heaven. The Bible teaches that only God can forgive sins. However, the Catholic Church insists that the Pope too has the authority to forgive sins. This kind of false teaching enabled them to commit fraud, the sale of indulgences. The Inquisition, run by the Catholic Church, is evidence that shows how corrupt and cruel the Catholic Church is. The Inquisition, which was established for religious trials, became a transnational institution of the Catholic Church. It was devised to condemn heretics designated by the Catholic Church. Heretics defined by the Catholic Church were the Christians who opposed the false insistence and doctrines of the Pope and wanted to live by the Bible. To rule over the world as they want, the popes tried to get rid of the Bible and restricted people from reading it. Pope Alexander III labeled those who read the Bible as heretics and commanded to confine Christians who were condemned as heretics to expropriate their property. Pope Innocent III instituted the Inquisition and launched crusades to combat heresy. Numerous Christians were killed and dispossessed of their properties. Pope Gregory IX claimed to punish heretics who did not repent and appointed the Order of St. Dominic as the Inquisitor. Pope Innocent IV promulgated the bull Ad Extirpanda, explicitly authorizing torture, and commanded to burn everyone who opposed Catholicism. Here is the salient religious trial of the century. Giordano Bruno, a medieval astronomer, was charged as a heretic by the Catholic Church and burned at the stake. The reason he was burned was that he denied the geocentric theory and insisted on the heliocentric theory. After that, Galilei verified that the Earth revolves around the Sun. But he too was declared a heretic and was forced to recant his heliocentric view. Joan of Arc, Maid of Orleans, who saved France from a crisis, was burned at the stake as a witch by the Inquisition. As years went by, the Inquisition helped the Pope exercise his extraterritoriality. To stay in power, the Catholic Church accused those who stood against them of being heretics and eliminated them. If a person was charged of being a heretic once, he had no right to have counsel. He was severely tortured and ended up being imprisoned for life or executed by fire. The Inquisition was the most infamous and devilish thing in human history. It was devised by the popes and used by them for 500 years to maintain their power. For its record, none of the subsequent lines of holy and infallible popes have ever apologized. He was given power to make war against the saints and to conquer them. Historians estimate that in the Middle Ages and early Reformation era, more than 50 million martyrs perished at the hands of the papacy. During the Dark Ages, 50 million innocent people were killed. In order to increase its wealth and power, the Catholic Church killed a great number of people. It is a distortion of history to call a murderer the apostle of peace. The Bible describes the crimes of the Catholic Church as below.
I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of those who bore testimony to Jesus. When I saw her, I was greatly astonished. He will speak against the Most High and oppress his saints and try to change the set times and the laws. The saints will be handed over to him for a time, times, and half a time.
The Roman Catholic Church was Babylon the Great, that ruthlessly killed innocent people who followed Jesus. The crimes of the Roman Catholic Church, which are prophesied in the Bible, are clearly seen in history. In the Museum of Torture Instruments in San Marino in Europe, the torture devices which were used during the Dark Ages are displayed. Iron Maiden. It is one of the representative torture devices from the medieval period. It is an iron cabinet with a spike-covered interior, with iron spikes about 8 inches long. When a person is enclosed inside, the whole body is pierced with the pointed iron spikes and is fatally injured, and the person dies slowly from excessive bleeding. The torture device in the shape of a wheel was invented for execution. They tied a person around the wheel, then rolled it repeatedly over fire or spikes. They also bound the 4 limbs of a person on a wheel and crushed the bones using an iron bar or hammer. Then the person was thoroughly injured and died in pain, still bound to the wheel. The Inquisition invented cruel torture devices to give victims as much pain as possible. A torture device with sharp iron hooks to tear off a living person's skin. A pyramid-shaped torture device with a sharp tip. A person was put on top and suffered severe pain as a sharp point was inserted into the body little by little due to the body weight. Most of the time, tortures were carried out by Catholic monks or priests. They pulled out nails using pliers, burned parts of the body with fire, and crushed fingers and toes with torture devices. A pulley was used to lift a victim's body up, and then drop them to make all the joints go out of place. A person was burned alive while their hands and feet were tied. A chair with spikes was used to tie a person down, and it made blood come out from every part of their body. If a victim denied the Catholic Church's teachings, despite the hard torture, they poured boiling lead in the mouth or ears, or gouged out their eyes, or flogged them until parts of their skin flew off. Sword. Slaying by sword and burning the victims alive. The Catholic priests enforced them to follow their teachings, holding the cross in front of them. The persecution for anti-Catholics continued as a large-scale massacre. In 1209, 6,000 were slain to death at Berthiers. And 1211, 100,000 Christians were massacred at Lavaur. Though the massacre at Merindol, 500 women were locked in a room and burned to death. In the massacre of Orange in 1562, the Italian army sent by Pope Pius IV was commanded to slay men, women, and children. In 1572, approximately 100,000 people were massacred in Paris, France.
He will speak against the Most High and oppress his saints. The saints will be handed over to him for a time, times, and half a time.
As it was prophesied that the one who speaks against the Most High would make war against the saints and conquer them, over 50 million people were slaughtered during the Dark Ages. The cruel massacre of the Catholic Church during the Dark Ages continued to the Holocaust, which killed 6 million Jews, the most tragic event in human history. From 1933 to 1945, 6 million Jews, including 1.5 million children, were slaughtered in 15 European countries, such as Poland, Russia, Austria, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, France, Belgium, Luxembourg, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, Romania, Yugoslavia, and Greece. All property of the Jews was confiscated. Women were dragged naked in public. They suffered from starvation, infectious diseases, confinement, and public execution. The Jews who survived faced a miserable death in gas chambers in concentration camps built by the Nazis. When the gates of the concentration camps for the Jews were opened as World War II ended, the world was shocked. In the concentration camps, there were dead bodies of the Jews that were not buried yet, piled up like a mountain. While Hitler massacred 6 million Jews under the pretext of ethnic cleansing, the Catholic Church publicly advocated Hitler's genocide of the Jews, claiming it stood for anti-Semitism. When the Nazis' genocide of the Jews reached its peak, Weissmandl, a Jewish rabbi, sent a letter to the Vatican to ask for help. He begged the Pope to save the innocent Jews, especially young children. 1.5 million out of 6 million Jews who were slaughtered were children. His plea was a desperate outcry. However, the reply he received from the papacy was not just heartless, but blood-curdling.
There is no such thing as the innocent blood of Jewish children. All Jewish blood is guilty, and the Jews must die, because that is their punishment for that sin.
The Catholic Church was always hostile to the Jews for the reason that they had killed Christ. And they committed countless murders under the pretext that they were punishing the Jews on behalf of God. This kind of attitude of the Catholic Church greatly affected Hitler, who was Catholic.
Dann wird das Ergebnis nicht die Bolschewisierung der Erde und damit der Sieg des Judentums sein, sondern die Vernichtung der jüdischen Rasse in Europa.
Hitler was a fervent Catholic. The reason Hitler extremely hated the Jews was from the historical experience of the Catholic Church, which had treated the true Christians and the Jews mercilessly for 1600 years. For this reason, Hitler was able to commit the Holocaust, sending 6 million Jews to gas chambers without hesitation. Before the massacre of the Jews began, the Catholic cardinals officiated in Mass for blessing the German Nazi guards. And the Catholic Church publicly advertised Hitler's genocide of the Jews.